is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Middlebury Selectboard meeting for May 9th to order. Our first item is the approval of the agenda.
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I would just like to note that after the Select Board meeting this evening, we have a special feature presentation by the Middlebury Consulting Group that has done an analysis of the town of Middlebury's CO2 reduction initiatives.
The slides in our packet were excellent.
At the end of the meeting.
Very impressed.
After the meeting.
That's great.
Is that public?
It's public. We'll leave everything going.
Great. Thanks so much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Aye. The next item is the approval of the consent agenda. We've got minutes from our last two meetings. We've got some subcommittee meetings, a letter of support for the Quarry Hill School Community Recovery and Revitalization Project funding, some more liquor licenses and outdoor consumption coming in, and a town manager report.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Great. Any discussion on any of these items?
Just a few of us weren't at the emergency select board meeting, so.
And that was noted.
Okay.
Just a small note on the
It's a long story.
minutes. The first line, it doesn't read, it says Brian Carpenter, Andy Hooper, and Dan Brown, Prahat Khan, and Lindsay Fuentes George, and Isabel Gogardi via Zoom, it says.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think you were on Zoom, two
Yeah.
of you, and the three of us were here.
Okay.
Everything else fine.
All right. So noted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Next up is citizen comments. This is time for anyone in attendance, in person or on Zoom, to talk to the select board about any issue of concern that is not on the agenda. No. Anyone on Zoom interested in speaking to us?
Mr. Kirby, if you would like to address the board, please raise your hand. No hand.
Lovely. That is amazing. Moving on. The next item is the public hearing on Summit Properties revised grant application for Vermont Community Development Program funding to finance Stonecrop Meadows. Zeke is here.
Frequent flyer I'm becoming.
Oh, my goodness. Glad to see you.
Glad to be here.
I've got some opening remarks I could read.
Yeah.
Sure. In accordance with the Vermont Community Development Act, 10 VSA, Section 384, the board is conducting a public hearing to take questions and comments from Middlebury community regarding a revised application by Summit Properties for a VCDP implementation grant for the future development of up to 250 new mixed-income homes in a master-planned community, Stonecrop Meadows. In a moment, I'll turn over the floor to Zeke Davison of Summit Properties, who will explain the revised grant application and the community needs that the VCDP grant funding would serve. After his presentation, if you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. If you're in the room and when recognized, come up to the table in front. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to be recognized. In either case, please state your name for the public record before making your comment. And now,
Thank you. So this is this is a revised resolution. I'm back for the same exact thing I was here last time, which is the Community Development Block Grant administered by VCDP. After that meeting, and as I was preparing to submit the application, I realized that the notice for our application was for $1 million when we're actually applying for 1.25. And HUD requirements, VCDP program, had to be renoticed and have to get a new resolution from the board. So from what I presented at that last meeting, nothing has changed. It's the same two-phase application.
Except for the amount.
Except for the amount, exactly. And I think I even discussed it as a $1.25 million amount when I was here. Didn't realize that the notice had the $1 million until I took your resolutions, took the notice that was in the Addison Independent and was going to submit. So Kathleen and I worked with VCDP just to confirm that we could still submit, conditioned upon receiving, renoticing a meeting and receiving a new set of resolutions. So just to summarize again, that program it's a HUD-funded program, Community Development Block Grant, administered by the Vermont Community Development Program, a division of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. It is one of the major affordable housing financing tools the state has to subsidize affordable housing. The application, typically $1 million is the max, which is why a lot of the form notices and what we were originally using had that. But this is a bit of a unique application. It's a 2-year, 2-phase. The first $1 million we're requesting will be for the infrastructure build out. The second $250,000 will be for a second phase for some of the beginning of the housing development. Rare, the 2-phase, 2-year applications, those have a $1.25 million max.
Great.
So that is our request. And I'm happy to answer any questions you all have about that. Otherwise, sort of incorporating the presentation from the last meeting.
Sure.
I reference here, I guess, but
Yeah.
happy to cover any of those details.
That makes sense. Any questions from the board?
Nothing else changed except for the amount
Right.
part, so.
Yeah.
no.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm good.
All right. Any questions from the public, either in person or on Zoom? The public hearing is open. Looks pretty quiet. Zeke.
No fireworks on that one.
No fireworks here. I think that we can safely close the public hearing. Kathleen, what do you think? Are we ahead of schedule and we
We're a
should?
little bit ahead of schedule, so
Uh-huh.
just for form, why don't we move on and then
Very well.
close the
Sure.
meeting?
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Can we approve this with the public hearing open? You think so?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
All right.
And-
So the next item is the request for the select board endorsement of this grant. Item 6.
Here, you need a motion?
I need a motion.
Okay. So I'll move to support the request of $239,543 by Summit Properties to the State of Vermont's revolving loan fund to assist in closing the funding gaps associated with the planned Stonecrop Meadows project.
Second.
Excellent. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Off to the races.
You all.
Very good. All right. Moving forward, I think we're just going to leave the public hearing open in case someone shows up.
Yep.
And maybe at 7:20, we'll close it and excuse you.
Sure. Well, I have the next order of business, I believe, also on the
I
agenda.
I don't
think
think
they-
you're the town clerk, but we can jump ahead.
Oh,
They
sorry if I
they
missed it.
just took care of it
We just did,
Oh, we
we just
did.
voted for it.
on the RLF?
You,
Oh.
Did you have an exciting, power-packed, hard sell argument
What
for
else
us,
do you
Zeke?
want?
No. Oh, okay, great.
Done.
Yep.
Yeah.
No fireworks at all. Great. Thank you all. I'll wait.
We're very
till at least-
efficient around here.
I'll wait till 7:30 at least.
and we do have good read-ahead packages, so.
That
Yes.
is great. Yeah, well, thank you all.
Laura,
Can we backpedal to citizen comment?
we can
Oh,
backpedal
Laura.
citizen comments. Come on up.
Bring your laptop.
Since we have time.
We do have time. It is a lovely
She's
day,
late.
but
But
we are here for the citizenry.
Penalized. She can do it at the end of the meeting. Uh-oh.
Guess what?
Is it about Portland Lou?
No.
Oh, is it about biking?
Yes.
Okay.
Woot woot.
Although I hear that Kathleen is headed to Portland, where she will
Use
have
the
a
loo.
chance to check out the Portland Lou.
Fantastic.
So we are still looking at the possibility of a Portland Lou in Middlebury, which I hope we do find good location for that.
Yeah.
So, and as I've mentioned before, related to that, you can go to Burlington and you can see the one at City Hall Park and how that's functioning. And in fact, I told you earlier that they're interested in buying another one because it has worked out. So anyway, that's not why I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here to let you know that it's May, and May is Bike Month, and that there is definitely encouragement to slow down, for a safer town, especially during May when we do see more cyclists back out on the road and sharing the road. So I'm just here to remind you and anyone who's watching tonight that Middlebury Safe Routes monitors for that, and we provide these signs that say slow down for a safer town that are put out on walk and roll days but are available for neighborhoods to repurpose if they feel like they want that reminder for motorists in their corridor. We did that at Rogers Road last year, and this week we put them up on Springside so that motorists coming down from Chipman Hill could see that reminder, and it could circulate to High Street where we've heard similar things. So if anyone's watching tonight is interested in accessing the signs, they can contact Eric Remsen or me, and we can use them as one of many devices to try to remind us to slow down.
What kind of signs are these? Can you
They're
remind us?
lawn signs that just say slow down for a safer town. And that this is a walk and roll to school route, but, they can go lots of places. So speed radar devices, the crosswalk safety flags, the rapid flashing beacon lights, those are all devices to help us slow down and make it safer for pedestrians. We want to protect for the soft, squishy first. We know that everybody needs to slow down, including cyclists and pedestrians, but we really need to protect for the most vulnerable, who are the pedestrians and the cyclists. So anything we can do to continue to remind motorists to slow down, that is a good thing. So May is an opportunity to highlight that, and if we can get more out there, of course, that's wonderful. And if we can provide for infrastructure that allows for safer bike routes, like we are planning for Exchange Street with a multi-use path, that's a good thing, So we're about to launch a mid-bike ped plan, so I know Jen Murray is working with me and others on that. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that. And also to remind you that we provide access to electric bikes for free through the Ilsley Library again, so it's another opportunity to try that mode of transportation, and hopefully that alleviates traffic in our roads too, as we divert more people to bikes and off of cars in our roads. So that's it. On the handout on the back, which is what we provided at the bike swap, is just an outline of all the things that are related to biking. And we have such a great story, really a great story to tell about cycling in Addison County and Middlebury. So I hope we do, and I hope we continue to support infrastructure for it, and I hope that we all do a good job of sharing the road and slowing down.
Yeah, no, the comments on Front Porch Forum about the concerns around driver speed really resonated. I live a block away from you, and cars, for some reason, think the speed limit goes from 25 to 50 at that intersection, even though it's 25 on both sides of it. I think everyone is of the opinion that traffic in front of their house goes way too fast. I think that's an almost universal feeling.
So the Middlebury Police does go out and monitor for speeding, and it's random. It's hard to catch, even though, we think we can. And it's also experienced as a lot faster for the pedestrians. So what they find is that the motorist really isn't necessarily exceeding the speed limit. Often they are, but for a pedestrian, it just is very shocking,
Sure.
to even feel 25 miles per hour passing you. So anyway, we have lots of ways that we can calm it down, and hopefully we'll continue to pursue that. And I appreciate, your support for that.
Look forward to discussing it, infrastructure on Thursday.
Thank you.
Has anyone else joined that's interested in citizen comments while we're here? No. Okay, good. We'll close this in comments again.
You want to close the public hearing?
I think we probably could, huh? I would like to close the public hearing on the revised grant application for the community block grant.
So moved.
I don't know if that needs to be moved.
I don't know, it's,
Okay,
I think it just happens.
okay,
Is that right, Kathleen?
okay.
We don't have a
I
parliamentarian
just noted the
here.
date. Yep,
Okay.
the time.
Zeke, I think you're done if you're,
I think there's a motion that goes with that, about approving the grant application.
is there?
We do. It's not enough,
Oh,
Okay.
not
Okay.
in the detail enough.
yeah. Could I get a motion? A motion to approve the 1.25 million Vermont Community Block Grant application. We approved the secondary 239,000 revolving loan fund, but not the community block grant. So if I could get a,
So I will move to approve that request for 1.25, no?
correct,
No, it's 1
Yes.
million, right?
1.25.
1.25.
1.25.
Let's not do this again.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There we go. We'll sign that. Boom. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming back. All right, moving right along, our next item of business is the nomination to the town clerk position.
So I've provided a little summary in your pack. I just handed it out to the select board members.
Sure.
Under the Town of Middlebury Charter, Section 302, when an elected officer resigns, such as the town clerk, the office becomes vacant and the select board shall appoint an eligible person to fill the vacancy until the next annual town meeting. The town clerk is a full-time position responsible for overseeing town functions in the areas of municipal record-keeping, issuance of licenses and official documents, and conducting local, state, and federal elections. Residency in the town is a requirement of this position. The town received 20 applications. 15 were from applicants outside of Middlebury. 12 were from Middlebury. 5 of the applicants from Middlebury were pre-screened. 4 applicants met with town clerk Ann Webster, and 3 applicants were moved to the interview round with Brian Carpenter, Lindsay Fuentes George, Ann Webster, and me. On April 19th, the full select board reviewed the applications of the 3 finalists and agreed to move forward with the candidate recommended by the interview committee pending reference and background checks.
Right.
The selected candidate accepted the position, and she has started to come in on Tuesdays
Fantastic.
to meet with Ann and start training for the position.
When is she going to be moving to a full-time? How long is Ann going to be here?
Well, that is a good question. Ann understandably is eager to move along, since she delayed her retirement. So she's asked that the board make the appointment effective upon her resignation/retirement.
Okay.
Great.
Any question? No?
No. Take a motion.
I move to appoint Karen Mott to fill the position of the town clerk upon an election, until an election can be held at the 2024 town meeting to fill the position. The appointment is effective upon the resignation, retirement of our current town clerk, Ann Webster.
Second?
Excellent. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Fantastic.
Enthusiastic aye.
Yeah, how exciting. Glad that we got so many good people. Karen Mott?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a sad part of it, too, isn't there? Oh.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. We have another position to fill that doesn't fall on the election, a member of the Ilsley Library Board of Trustees has stepped down, and they have found someone to replace that person.
We have Amy from the Board of Trustees here.
Great. Hey there, Amy.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Amy.
Glad to have you here. Glad to have all this great information about Natasha. Looks on paper like an amazing candidate.
Yeah, she's been coming to our meetings and she's on board. We're excited to have her.
That's good.
Excellent.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
can,
yeah,
yeah.
we're
For
fine.
sure. Any questions or comments? No, my goodness. Moving right along.
You need a motion.
Sure.
I'll move to appoint Natasha Sain to fill the current vacant position on Ilsley Library Board of Trustees until an election can be held at the 2024 town meeting to fill the position.
Moved and seconded. No prior discussion, no post-discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Fantastic. Welcome to the Ilsley Board. Thanks for coming, Amy.
Yay.
Nice to see you.
Thanks, Amy.
This is my kind of agenda.
So far.
Yeah. Next up is the public assemblage permit application for Middlebury Regional EMS. They're requesting an assemblage permit from the town to hold a coin drop fundraising event on May 27th. It would take place at 2 locations along Route 30, adjacent to Sanderson's funeral home, and on North Pleasant Street, just north of Maplefield Store. No alcohol will be served at this event. That's great. Certificate of liabilities insurance has been obtained by the applicant. The permit was in our packets.
And Kate Rothwell from Middlebury Regional EMS is here.
Great.
If you have any questions.
Do we have questions?
I love this.
We
You like the
did-
coin drop?
I like coin drop.
We did have a coin drop
Last year. And
last year. Who was that? Was that EMS too?
Was that you, Kate, last year?
Last one we did was 20.
No, no.
No, there was
it
one last year.
We had a discussion about it.
It was
We
home
didn't
health,
do it.
yeah.
And I was wondering how that came off.
It just came off with, there was a suggestion that they can collect money that way. I don't know if it was,
Well, the chief,
I think it was for another nonprofit
Home- yeah,
organization.
Home health and
Yeah,
hospice.
Home Health and Hospice, right.
it was home health, yeah.
so apparently there was no problem because we haven't heard from the chief.
Right, okay.
And the chief did review this application and support the locations.
Okay.
Great. I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the public assemblage permit application submitted by Middlebury Regional EMS for their planned coin drop fundraiser on 5/27/2023.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Stay safe. It's EMS standing in the middle of the road. That's just
Yeah. Slow down, it's traffic calming.
so
There we go.
have an ambulance there with the lights on. That'll slow them down.
Yeah. Next up is the Addison County Solid Waste Management District telling us about their activities and look ahead. And Carrie is here. So nice to see you.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
My name's Teresa Kaczynski. I've been the solid waste manager for 21 years. Came here in 2002. And I'm here to talk about what we accomplished this past year, but also what we're looking forward to. Thank you for inviting me. In calendar year, I know you can relate to this. In calendar year 2022, just about every one of our expenses went up. All of our vendors rose their fees, including hazardous waste, solid waste disposal, transportation. In particular, our recycling costs went up, and we finished the year with about $39,000 loss. This is very unusual. I've been in this business for over 35 years. I've never seen anything like it. I think that we're all hoping that with the economy improving eventually, that the processing fee will go down, but the processing fee that we are charged at the material recovery facility has continued to go up to now triple digits, $143 a ton, and it used to be around $50 to $60 a ton. And then even before that, years ago, I remember when we would get paid a portion of the revenues that they receive from the sale of the materials. So that'll give you an idea of how difficult a year it's been. We had hoped that we would start to slow down on that cost increase this first half of the year, but so far it's not happening. So the executive board is going to meet tomorrow afternoon to talk about options for paying for recycling. But we had a very popular year at the transfer station. We collected 23,486 tons of solid waste and construction demo debris that went to disposal. 4,346 tons of single-stream recyclables, which are the mandated recyclables that you place at the curb. 53 tons of food scraps, and 471 tons of tires. And we were able to finish calendar year 2022 with a favorable net position, but we're going to be needing that going into this year when it comes to recycling. Our budget that we adopted for 2023 began with the normal estimates of recycling, but because of those increases in estimated recycling costs that we found out in November, at the last minute, we had to go from $120 a ton to $125 on the single-stream recycling rate. And we raised the MSW disposal rate from $135 to $145. So even then, we anticipated if we were to take the average cost of recycling for 2023, we would still be coming in short around $12 a ton, but we thought that we were hoping that it would be a better year towards the second half of the year, and we were just taking the average of 130. But now that we're at 143 a ton, it's getting a little scary. But I know we're not the only ones discussing that with the legislature, and all of the solid waste districts and alliances and individual towns are having this issue. So, we have a materials management plan that we have to abide by. It's a state solid waste plan, it used to be called, and it's amended every 5 years. We have to abide by our own solid waste implementation plan has to conform to the state plan, which is all very boring, but suffice it to say that they established a 50% diversion rate, and we have met it in 2020 at 58.65% diversion rate for our district, which we have been accomplishing since 2006. I think we're one of the only districts that has managed to divert up past the 50%.
Nice.
It's not an easy thing to do, as you can imagine. And then it's difficult sometimes to find the time and staff to do the diversion studies. So for that reason, the state took away that requirement as part of our solid waste reports every year, and just focus on the disposal rate that comes in every July 1 in our reports. But our district opted to go every 2 years for the diversion report. So we're excited because this is one of the years we're going to tally it up again, and we have great staff that's been calling. If any of you are business owners, you've been called most likely by someone in our staff asking you about your diversion. It's really important to do that because not everything comes through the transfer station. Although all of the disposed waste comes through, recycling and food scraps can go anywhere, even outside the district, to be marketed because it's considered a marketable commodity. So we have to trace that, we have to track that down. So even though the transfer station's open 6 days a week, including for hazardous waste, we don't accept households bringing in weekly trash and recycling. Is just not, the transfer station not conducive traffic-wise to sharing that small driveway with commercial vehicles, commercial trucks. So for 4 years, we've been looking for other options, including expanding on site, but also citing criteria was developed, and we were looking all over the county, for sites. We wrote select boards asking if they had any sites that they would like to offer up or propose. We ended up following with a Ferrisburg siting process that didn't work out, but now we are proud to say that our board has worked very, very hard. Municipal Drop-Off Advisory Committee, our full board has closed on property in New Haven. And not only is it a site for solid waste for residential traffic, a one-stop shopping, if you will, but we also have a lot next to it that we plan to propose amending the Act 250 in the future for a household hazardous waste site. It will be a modern, state-of-the-art building for HHW versus the closets that we have now in Middlebury, where our staff have to bulk outdoors under a canopy with all kinds of weather blowing and all times of year, and we're starting to outgrow it. So the more materials that we divert through the HHW facility, the more we're going to need a bigger space. So that's something to look forward to in year 3. So this year we're going forward with a site development, not so much construction, but site development. We're going to install concrete bunkers, 2 of them, one for leafing yard waste and one for tires. And we're going to have a paved driveway and a gate, and then we're going to arrange with a private hauler to park a vehicle there, or 2 vehicles, to collect recycling and trash and food scraps, which is what we're required to collect. Leafing yard waste can be placed in the bunker temporarily. And then next year, we hope to proceed to construction, and that will be a scale house. We call it a scale house. There's no scales involved in the site, but it's an attendant shed. And we will have more opportunity for compactor, stationary compactor for recyclables, one for trash. We'll have a tip wall for scrap metal. We'll have sea containers for a variety of items like electronics, and we'll have some accommodation for plastic film and plastic bags and documents to be destructed. And then we'll have our enclosed roll-off container for food scraps. That's going to be a big deal because our experience has been that with that kind of system where we accept the dropped-off buckets from individuals, but also the toters from haulers. And then we tip it into, we have a special tipper that we design, and then we tip that into the roll-off box. And it saves a lot of space, it's a lot of time, it keeps it self-contained. And so we're really excited about that. So I think most of the site is devoted to diversion. And there's only going to be one compactor for trash disposal. We're not going to be taking commercial vehicles. We're not going to be weighing anything. It'll just be individual vehicles. We have a queuing area for 25 cars, which, as you know, is much longer than the queuing area at the Middlebury transfer station. So that's starting now. We're going out to bid. We're having a site visit Friday, and the bids are due on the 26th of May for phase 1. We call it phase 1 construction.
That's very exciting. As someone who was in a lot of meetings prior to getting this far, it's great to see that you're going to have that. And I know that for the towns that don't have the variety of haulers that we have here in Middlebury, having a place to bring your household waste is a necessity and one of the requirements for the district to provide. Have you ever seen the disposal diversion cost difference be as small as it is now? You're charging $125 for recycling and $145 for landfill per ton at this point. That seems like not a lot of economic benefit from recycling at that point.
I think the attitude of all boards in the past have been that we want to make recycling more affordable and to encourage people to divert. I think that's one secret behind our diversion rate that's so high.
Yeah.
Is because we subsidize the cost of recycling on the bag fee. I think it's important for people to know that we don't tax our member towns. We don't assess them for any portion of our cost. Everything that we spend, we have to earn on the bag fee or on per item fees. But because of the experience with encouraging diversion, charging less for recycling has been critical, as well as charging less or charging, at this point, charging nothing for HHW, because there are places where they are looking at $20 to $100, maybe more than that per vehicle at special events. And we are subsidizing all the costs of household hazardous waste disposal.
Yeah, and I also wonder if the increase in the cost of disposal, if you've seen that lead to more issues of dumping, again, with haulers going out of business in some of the Addison towns, if there's been, not exactly diversion, but side of the road diversion happening at higher rates.
No, and that was a surprise to us at the beginning when we began to enforce against illegal dumping. We contract with the Addison County Sheriff's Department, and they respond to all complaints. People can either call it to the Sheriff's Department, or they can call it to us, and we'll file a complaint. And it hasn't really gone up appreciably. It's really amazing to me. The Green Up Day collection items have not gone up appreciably. Of course, the lowest year was 2020 because I think a lot of people didn't go out. It wasn't really a full event that year with COVID shutdowns, but it's gone down compared to what it was in prior years, going all the way back to when we were recording it in 2014.
Cool.
So I anecdotally, we used to see a lot more materials in Green Up Day loads, but we must be doing something right. I think that residents and businesses are doing their best to comply with state law and with our ordinance. The one thing that we're the most grateful for is that they're protecting our employees by keeping hazardous waste out of the waste stream, not stinking it in to the waste stream, which is one reason we don't charge households for it.
Sure.
And also the compactor operators at the landfill, the haulers that haul the trash back and forth. It can be incredibly dangerous if the wrong items get in and get compacted in the back of a packer truck, for example. Or if one of our guys rolls over it with a compactor and it explodes, can cause fire and harm. So we really appreciate people keeping the hazardous waste out.
I was reminded, I went to UVM to see some of their stormwater projects last week, and they were talking about, like, how are we going to slow down this water? What's the right material for it? And they were saying, some kind of artificial turf might be like the perfect thing to have in here as a foundation to let other plants grow in, and that would be durable enough to stand up to being next to the roadway. I was like, Middlebury just threw out all that turf when I was visiting the solid waste district a couple of years ago. And I was just thinking about the poor timing with that little incident. But anyway, so it goes. These things happen. I really enjoyed my time on the solid waste board. I know that the host towns have a automatic seat on the executive board, and Middlebury has traditionally had that executive seat. Does New Haven also get one with the addition of
That was a really good question. We haven't broached that topic yet.
Okay.
We just obtained all our permits. We just closed on the land, so that's a very good question. The board will have to discuss that, consider that. Middlebury has the most votes capita, 2,500 persons or part of 2,500, which I'm not sure how you do that, but how you measure that. But anyways, it's based on the 2020 census, so Middlebury has 4 votes.
Great.
On the board.
So how are you paying for this new facility?
We have anticipated this will be a need for, since 2003. We've conducted so many surveys. We've listened to people's complaints. We've designed the expansion of our existing transfer station as best we could within the space constraints. And it just was obvious early on that we were going to have to expand somewhere else. So we've been putting a capital development plan in effect for 10 years. Each year we go for their year, and we've had enough money put aside for the land acquisition this year and for phase 1.
So you're going to have more staff members with your cost increases and, a negative balance. How are you going to balance that?
I'm not sure it will be negative. We'll set the bag fee to pay for our expenses. We're still crunching the numbers as far, what we're not sure about is the total volume of residents that will be using the facility. Because it is a regional facility, it's not specific to one community. So it remains to be seen how many people will utilize it. But I think the main goal for it was to prevent some kind of catastrophe where a hauler, more than one hauler, were to go out of business or step away from providing the town drop-offs, and that's always been a concern.
Well, for somebody who's made a gazillion trips to the transfer station, your staff members are really outstanding, and I'm always amazed how clean and efficient operations are there. It's actually fun to go there, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'll let them know.
They're good people.
Yeah. Growing up in central Vermont, music to go to the dump on Saturday mornings on WDEV was a common source of entertainment, and we often did go to the local dump in Roxbury on Saturday mornings back when Johnny Gross's little landfill was open there. But it is a very Vermont experience to haul your own trash to the local.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not everyone can go to the drop-offs on Saturday, and
Sure.
especially drop-offs that are open every other Saturday. Quite a few people might work on Saturday.
Sure.
Or they're out of town, and then we have all the tourists that check out usually at accommodations on Fridays and might not have anywhere to take their materials. So we're trying to give some options. It's not meant to replace all of the drop-offs, but it's meant to be there for anyone who can't make it to the drop-offs, or they want to bring all of their material to the same spot, whereas some drop-offs can't take all of those materials. They might only be able to take the bag waste and recycling and food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Thank you so much for coming in. Oh,
Thank
there's a citizen comment.
Oh.
Representative on the board for this wonderful organization. I recently had a tour, and I second your analysis of the quality of the people. It's great. And, it's an amazingly well put together organization. Very rare, I think, in the scope of this kind of thing. And as to the New Haven site, know that it is just about the easiest place to get to. It's easier than the McDonald's to get to.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't miss it.
Right.
It's just off Route 7 on Campground Road. Very easy to access.
For those of you who have not noticed the Campground Road sign, it's right across from the Greenhaven Nursery, just south of town.
Across from the state police.
Across from State.
Indeed. Wonderful. Thanks so much for coming in.
It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is the, I believe, make sure I know where I am, is the agreement with St. Stephen's Episcopal Church for hosting a wireless access point for Triangle Park. We have in our packet a proposed lease agreement between the town of Middlebury and St. Stephen's Episcopal Church to help establish wireless internet access across Triangle Park, adjacent to the intersection of Main Street and Merchants Row. So some equipment would be placed in that location, and this is a lease agreement so that we set all the parameters for that. There will be no cost to the town for the renting of this very limited space, and I believe they're also providing electricity for the equipment?
Yes, they said that they they being St. Stephen's, was not interested in any rent from the town, but our town attorney advised that we need to pay them $1 a year
Sure.
to secure the agreement.
Consideration,
Yes.
creating an actual contract.
Yes.
Very good.
And,
Our assistant town manager laughs.
And St. Stephen's has been very welcoming and accommodating to this, though we're going to start the pilot project that was initiated by the Downtown Improvement District Commission with a wireless access point on Triangle Park. The equipment is expandable to allow more coverage of the green for other events if it's a success.
I think that's lovely. Is this expected to be on and available all the time?
No.
No.
No, during events, the reasoning was for the vendors at the Middlebury Midsummer Market
Sure.
needed to access their point of
Payment.
sale.
Yeah. Excellent.
But again, it's a pilot, so we'll see where it goes.
Mr. Conrad,
Yeah, Ross Conrad. Do you know if the wireless system is going to be 4G or 5G?
I believe it'll be neither. It will probably be 802.11 AC, BG, something or other. Fourth and fifth generation. Oh, you're talking about Wi-Fi, not
Yes.
cellular. I do not know the answer to that. I think
Yeah,
that
we're gonna get
the newer is 6 now.
the Comcast service
Okay.
to the Congregational Church.
So is it their Wi-Fi
We're
hardware
gonna
as well?
be having our own account, and I don't know the particulars of.
So is cellular or is it,
It's not cellular.
It's
It's not
Wi-Fi.
cell, it's
So
Wi-Fi.
this
It's gonna
is,
be
yeah, this is
Wi-Fi.
cable internet turned into Wi-Fi
but you don't
connections.
know if it's 4 or 5G?
I
I think Wi-Fi speeds, we
I
will
don't know.
get the state of the art, whatever's available now, I believe.
Okay,
So
well,
it's generally 2 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz bands. They're not usually referred to as 4G and
Right,
5G.
right.
It's 6th generation Wi-Fi is the new gigabit
Yeah,
plus.
the 4G and 5G is the cell phone coverage that you
oh,
see.
it's, okay,
Wi-Fi doesn't,
it's different.
they don't
Yes.
have the.
They've got
4G and 5G.
they have similar terminology, but they're really on 6 and 6E right now with 7 coming out. But regardless, yeah, considerably different. I don't think we know exactly which radio frequencies are going to be in use.
Thank you.
Sure.
And our cost is, we are gonna pay for the internet, the town.
Correct.
That's the only cost we have, right? And are we gonna shop
And
around
we're
for
also
that?
have to get the hardware for
Yeah.
the wireless.
Outdoor antenna.
Which is,
Are we going to shop around for the providers, or are we gonna stick with Comcast?
I don't know the answer to that.
there's
I
not
know
much
that
shopping. You can
There's
do.
one going in on every town, every street in town right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they're a lot more affordable, I think, medium, with a
Agreed.
much better quality.
Oh, we can look into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
To
Again.
see if their timing works out.
Russ.
Yeah, I would just remind you that you guys, Middlebury, the town of Middlebury owns a broadband fiber company
Indeed we do.
called Maple Broadband. So
Yes.
if you do, I'd recommend you don't get involved in a long-term contract that ties you in so that once Maple Broadband is in town,
Absolutely.
you might be able to take advantage of it.
Good point and well taken. Thanks. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the proposed agreement between the town of Middlebury and St. Stephen's Episcopal Church relating to the establishment of a wireless internet access point at Triangle Park.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fantastic. How excellent of St. Stephen's. Much appreciated.
It looks like someone has their hand up.
Oh,
Okay?
Judy?
Hello there.
Citizen comments?
Oh, you're on,
on the mute.
yeah, on mute. There you go.
Hello, Judy.
Judy?
It could be. Let's move ahead to the Energy Committee.
This is, Ross,
Municipal-
you're welcome to come up and talk about this. This was your inspiration initiative on behalf of the Energy Committee, the Municipal Energy Resilience Program.
So, yeah, basically, we have an unprecedented situation right now with, there's more money coming through grants for infrastructure, energy improvements, and all kinds of stuff that it's a little overwhelming. Regional planning is doing a lot to put in place grant writers to help the towns in the county take full advantage of the opportunities. And one is this, the MERP, we call it, Municipal Energy Resilience Program. And so there's 3 parts to it. One is getting assessments. Every town can get up to 5 buildings assessed, municipal buildings. And Kathleen has put together a priority list that we're going to focus on. Those assessments are free. There's 2 different phase assessments. You can get a phase 1 assessment, which is kind of quick and fast. There's a more involved assessment, phase 2, which is takes more time, is a little more involved, but both assessments will qualify the town to take advantage of construction grants, implementation funding, which is about $500,000 available. However, if the town of Middlebury is not extremely well positioned to get that operations construction grant, to be honest, because we don't have a very high, what they call energy burden. And so that
We're starting with newer buildings that are more efficient than some towns.
No, I think the cost per citizen
Oh,
for
okay.
the energy is lower than some of the other towns.
Okay.
And so these grants are prioritized for those with the highest energy burdens. But we are in the mid-range, so it is possible, not extremely likely, but possible we may still get. So I think it might still be worthwhile trying to put in for something, maybe for the library or whatever the town folks, department heads decide is a priority. However, by doing a level 2 audit, even if we don't get the construction grant, it will qualify us for some of the other funding opportunities. And there's a lot of them. So it's highly recommended we go for that level 2 assessments for the buildings. And then apply for the construction grant. And then the other part of it is kind of an outreach grant of $4,000. It's very easy to get, not competitive, and that is something we probably should consider going for. My own thought was that there's some talk about the town and the college working together on a comprehensive climate action plan or some kind.
Interesting.
So unless the town has some other priority, maybe that could be considered, because I know the college is very interested and willing to put up funds, but it'd be good for us to contribute, and if we can do it through a grant, I think it might be preferable.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. I have heard some chatter about hydro on the other side of the dam, which could be lovely. We'll see. Fantastic. Yes, Howard.
Because I think in terms of the likelihood of Middlebury getting some funding, I think it's actually maybe better because there's $36 million available. And the thought is a lot of the higher energy burden towns probably don't have
Infrastructure.
It can, there's not $500,000 that they can spend. So we think that with us being sort of in the middle, it's likely that it'll work down to us. So I think I'm optimistic that there's an opportunity there. And the library is the perfect application.
Is it ever? Yeah.
Yeah,
Great. I appreciate your optimism.
but I appreciate
And
That's
realism.
okay for that.
You gotta have both of them.
Well, no, I mean, thanks Ross, you've been pushing this with the Addison County, with Matty,
Yeah,
CRPC.
that's great. Questions? Comments? No? All right. You guys are making this too easy. So they're looking for a letter from us?
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
I move to approve the proposed application letter from the town of Middlebury to be submitted to the Vermont Municipal Energy Resilience Program.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Thanks so much, guys. It's exciting. Ah. Is Joe with us?
No. Judy,
Hello.
you're not muted, but we're not hearing you.
I think we should lower her hand and let her put it back up if she's available and want to talk later.
Okay.
So Joe McVeigh is our next presenter, and I don't see him in attendance. We are
Okay, well, I'm happy to.
5 minutes behind schedule.
Okay.
3:02.
You want me to send him a message or something?
Is that him?
302-545-4410. Please, I'm gonna, oh, they
his number is
just
802.
dropped off. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to do that.
Shy.
Well,
Yeah, he's 989.
I'm sending a message to him.
Okay, good.
This is fairly straightforward. And as you know, last time,
Yes.
we invited 4 different firms, the select board invited 4 different firms to participate in the design competition. And we worked out with the town's attorney, Bob Fletcher, an agreement with the different firms. All of the 4 firms have returned their signed agreements, and this is a request for the board to authorize me to countersign those agreements with GBA Architecture, Smith, Alvarez, Sankowitz, Vermont Integrated Architects, and Wyman Lampier Rearch.
Great. No, and I thought the agreement looked really good to preserve people's intellectual property and make sure that, yeah, everyone knows what they're getting into. Looks great. Should we do it?
I move to authorize the town manager to enter into participation agreements with each of the participating firms involved in the Ilsley Public Library Design Competition.
Second.
Any further discussion? None. All those in favor? Aye. Fantastic. Still running behind the schedule, just barely. Approval of the site access license agreement, clean water service provider for the Barnes Brook riparian buffer planting. The Addison County Regional Planning Commission has been selected as the clean water service provider for the Otter Creek Basin. Clean water service providers are charged with identifying, implementing, operating, and maintaining projects to improve water quality. Projects eligible for support from a clean water service provider cannot be required by regulation, must lead to phosphorus reductions. They have partnered with Addison County Riverwatch Collaborative to plant a riparian buffer along Barnes Brook in the vicinity of the Overbrook condominiums. The proposed plantings will increase bank stability and provide protection against the erosive forces of stormwater. Additionally, the planting will be composed of native species to provide shade, habitat, and stability along the stream banks. Buffer will be maintained through an agreement with the clean water service provider, ensuring a successful project. The Regional Planning Commission is proposing a site access license agreement with the town as part of this project to allow Riverwatch to conduct the proposed restoration planting along Barnes Brook behind Overbrook condominiums, and then carry out any necessary maintenance related to the project over a 10-year period. The town previously submitted a letter of support for this work. This is great. Gonna actually get it done, put in some, is this riprap? I forget what all the terms are.
It's not riprap, no.
Okay, thanks, Dan. What is riprap?
Material, rocks,
it?
stuff.
This is
Okay.
Yes,
planting.
this is plants.
Very good. I appreciate that. And it's not all going to be Japanese knotweed, which is also good.
Or buckthorn or anything like that.
What's that?
Or buckthorn or anything like
Yeah,
that.
it might be buckthorn. I think that's native. No?
No.
Purple loosestrife.
Any discussion? Yes, Ross?
I would just point out Mike Winslow, who's on the call, is heading
Okay.
this program of regional planning, in case you wondered.
Fantastic.
He'd be the one to talk to.
Yeah, great, thanks. Laura?
I just want to mention that there was a community forum last week on the Barnes Brook, and I attended it. It was excellent, and I learned about this project, and I learned about Barnes Brook being really quite the meandering brook that goes through Mary Hogan, you know, it goes through Butt-Off Drive out to where the new Summit development, you know, around that whole loop of property. So it's really interesting. And the other thing they reported that is interesting is that there's high chloride in that brook, which is not a surprise given the salting that we do. And that even if we were to stop salting our roads as heavily, the soil has absorbed so much that it's going to continue to leach in. So this kind of planting is good, you know, like, and we're lucky to have organizations like River Watch and the Tree Committee, you know, like that does consider things like this, and they have so many multiple benefits for our community. So I'm grateful for it, and I hope that we protect this little treasure of a brook.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Laura. Any other
I hope
public
so, 'cause
comments?
I don't want to get infected by
What, Dan?
talking to my friend here.
Oh, I see.
Okay, sorry.
His friend.
Yeah, I see.
My only friend maybe tonight.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to authorize the town manager, Kathleen Ramsey, to enter into a site access license agreement with Otter Creek Clean Water Service provider to allow access to Barnes Brook for riparian buffer planting and related maintenance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. We have come to the end of the written agenda. We have no other items? Well, we obviously check warrants.
Nope, that's it.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $317,199.56, consisting of $210,907.89 for accounts payable and $106,291.67 for payroll for the period of April 26, 2023 through May 9th, 2023.
Second.
Great. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unlike the federal government, we pay our bills. Okay. Just a little jab there at folks authorizing spending and then not authorizing the payment of those things. Board member concerns. Let's start over here.
Hey, I would just like to point out that they have started digging for the pump track. So go look. It's some dirt, but soon it will be fancy dirt, and I'm very excited about that.
It's very exciting.
I don't have anything as exciting as that, no. I have nothing.
Yeah,
No.
very good. Farhad.
Just want to mention that we sorely miss Heather Seeley. He's not feeling well. I saw her husband at the store today, and she's feeling better now, but that was a big scare for her. So just want to let her know that we miss her. We're hoping that she comes back and be lively again with us. The second thing, I think that at the Maverick, they're doing a lot of work at the Maverick station. They're digging and stuff. Is that related to our stuff, or?
I thought it looked like some utility work.
Okay. It was like the whole thing was packed with equipment, and they were digging.
I saw that.
Yeah, I think they were putting up lines,
That could be, yeah.
power lines.
I know that
Probably
was-
it's Fidium. They're everywhere. Yeah.
I blame Fidium.
I don't blame. I'm excited.
I wanted
Is
to
it?
thank everyone who came out for Green Up Day. Our community looks beautiful. Went on a nice walk today before the meeting, and it was just beautiful. I love living here. And I also want to thank anyone in our community who is a nurse or works in hospitals with Nurses Appreciation Week, as well as Teacher Appreciation Week.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, teacher.
Teacher Appreciation Week.
you.
Absolutely.
Shout out to
Yeah,
us.
well, very good. No, that's lovely. Thanks for that. Thanks for, mentioning Heather and,
Yeah, it's, I have vertigo. That's what she had.
Right.
And it's the worst thing that you can experience. And I think she had it worse than I did.
As I mentioned earlier, I did get up to UVM for the poster session of the civil engineering students to see the stormwater projects that they designed for us. I was up there with Emily and Fred, and I drove up together. That was really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was cool to see that, as well as all of the mechanical engineering and electrical engineering projects that they put together. Really neat. The energy of 20-year-olds is fantastic. Yeah. That's it for me. I'm very excited to see all of the well-dressed Middlebury Consulting Group folks right there. Excited to come in. Yeah, let's do it. Should we adjourn?
Why don't you adjourn?
Okay.
But I'll keep the Zoom open.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going,
So we need a motion
Motion to
to,
adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Man, an hour 6 is
Oh,
pretty
it's gonna
good.
get interesting.
That is.
Okay.
I like that.
Kathleen,
Yeah.
before we start this, then maybe we can send a card to Heather. Can you sign it?
Sure.
That would be great.
You want me to pick a card?
What?
Hey, how's it going? Good, how are you doing? I'm great, good
Can
to see
check and
you.
see what we have in stock upstairs.
Okay, I have
They,
card or thinking of
the library owners.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll try to see if we, I'll see if we have a get well.
Glad to see you.
Hello.
Maybe provide quick
Energy
background.
Committee.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Give us 30 seconds
Yeah, wait till
to
it
get our chatter down.
settles and then,
Yeah, whenever you're done.
Yeah, thanks.
So we have our updated presentation. Should I airplay it or should I send it to someone?
Kathleen's right there.
Derek sent it to me just this afternoon, like at 5:20 or something.
That's probably best, because then it will get in the Zoom and the YouTube feeds, hopefully.
Is there a specific area you'd like us to stand?
Well, front,
yeah.
come on
sit
back
over
there.
Yeah,
here
I think
and
that would be
you
great.
guys are welcome
So
over
you can
there
see
in
the
those
screen too.
chairs. The mics will pick up for the people on Zoom. They have better clothes than I do. What's this?
Sharp. Yeah.
Can I wear sweats?
Parents.
Howard?
Yeah,
Your parents are
okay.
not providing you
So,
anything.
I'll just give you a quick background and I'll
Mine
let
had
them.
nothing to provide.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to thank Derek and his team. I really hadn't met you in person before, so thanks for the work that you were doing. Thanks for Kathleen for making this available to you. Thank you for sticking around. We first heard about the MCG, the Middlebury Consulting Group, through one of our Energy Committee members, Dan Rafferty, who unfortunately isn't able to be here tonight. And he engaged with Derek. Is that who he started with?
It was Ellen.
But with Ellen, oh, wait, yes, of course. And if my understanding is correct, that you have more of a business perspective orientation for what the work that you do versus it's not specifically environmental. So they're coming into the work that Richard's been doing for years now, sort of cold, right? And I think one of the objectives was really to help us understand, us being the Energy Committee, how to prioritize the steps that could be taken to reach our 80% goal that we've laid out years ago, and how we can best, from a business perspective, spend money, the greatest bang for the buck to be able to achieve that. And we looked at the MCG more as independent analysis from some of what we've done. Now, there wasn't full engagement, and I'll take responsibility for that, and I'm not sure I caused a lot of agita to some people, especially in the committee. So my apologies for that. And part of the problem was, I think, the constraint that you had was that you had to finish all your work by this Friday, I believe, right?
Yes.
You couldn't engage in this work beyond that. And our next Energy Committee meeting is the 17th, so it didn't line up that way. So unfortunately, we received the report Monday morning and hadn't had a chance to really fully vet it. And so just keep that in mind, because what you'll see is some of the findings runs somewhat counter to the work that Richard had presented previously in the strategy that we've been taking for the 80% reduction.
Okay.
So, and then, yeah, so I think it's I mean, we felt it was important for them to be able to come here and present it because, one, you know, we've had great experience with all the engagement we've had with the college in the past. They've done some great work for us in the past. I think it's important for them to have an opportunity to present. It's part of your education and being able to generate the report, defend it, you know, and present it to this group here. So I thought, at the very least, we thought it was important that we have this moment for them to be able to present their information. So thank you for hearing it out, and I'll let them take over.
Thanks, Howard.
Hi everyone, we are Middlebury Consulting Group. I'm Derek, I'm one of the team leaders for this project.
I'm Ella, the other team leader.
I'm Brian.
I'm Caroline.
I'm Sam.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Ahmed, and we're all consultants.
Yeah. As Howard said, I want to say thank you for you guys being flexible and letting us join in on this meeting today, and also for the MEC members to take time out of your busy lives and letting us present our report. As Howard already articulated, we were tasked by the Middlebury Energy Committee to give an analysis of what town current emissions look like, and then from there, what's the best steps to take to hit that goal. We believe that we built a robust and comprehensive report, structured one, looking at what the town is what town current emissions are at right now, and then a short-term plan, which offers pragmatic and efficient solutions that can be implemented immediately with a long-term view of capital-intensive projects. The two factors that we really heavily considered was, one, how do we reduce carbon emissions? I mean, that's the name of the game. And secondly, how can we be cost effective at the same time? Because again, we are beholden to the tax holders, and we want to make sure that this is economically feasible. From there, we have, if we go to the next slide, we have a general overview of what the report will be covering. One, context of what the town profile is. This was done in correspondence with Richard Hopkins over here. He provided a lot of help, building the data set, and from there we kind of made some figures and visuals to just better comprehend what's going on. Secondly, we looked at fuel replacements, specifically with vehicles and some heating. Third is making the heating systems within the buildings a little bit more efficient. And then again, fourth is funding. How can we get the necessary funds to build this, not just through loans, but also through grants that state and federal government is offering. And then lastly, these capital intensive projects, which will be the hard hitters in reducing carbon emissions. Thank you.
So to kick us off with the town profile, we can go to the next slide where we can see a log scale of the carbon dioxide emissions change over the last 4 or 5 fiscal years, with 2021, 2022 as the last year. Again, thanks a lot for the data. It was a great resource to be able to comprehend and understand the emissions in detail. And with this graph, you can see how the carbon emissions changed according to each type of energy, starting with gasoline, diesel, fuel oil, propane, electricity, and natural gas. And the common trend here is either that some of the emissions has stayed the same, decreased a little bit, or in some cases increased, except for electricity, which we see a huge decrease. And that was because the supplier chose to change their sources into cleaner sources. If we go to the other slide, we can see that the departments of police, fire, public works, and the sewer have the highest emissions, and out of the 10 departments. And we can see from there that the emissions have either stayed the same, decreased, or increased a little bit, which doesn't reflect us reaching the goal we need. And focusing on those departments helped us a lot and figuring out our recommendations and going ahead from there. If we focus on those departments in the next slide, you can see that most sources are either gasoline, fuel oil, in some cases propane, and diesel. One recent change that we have recently been aware of is that in the public works figure on the top left, the public works department deal with all the diesel across all departments, and that might explain the huge amount of emissions by diesel. So if this is accurate, then this huge amount will be distributed among all departments and not only public works. So if we go to the next slide, we made our calculations and we figured if the town needs to reach 80% reduction, we need to cut around 1 million pounds of carbon dioxide emissions. And that is 1/3 of the current emissions to reach 400,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions. And it's really necessary to keep this recommendation in mind and take some proactive actions to reach that goal, especially that in the last 4 years, not significant change has happened, unfortunately, but we believe that those recommendations will help, maybe to jumpstart, maybe to get us started with getting to our goal. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to start with some of our short-term recommendations. If we could go down a slide. Our first one's going to be biodiesel, implementing biodiesel where we're currently using diesel in our vehicles. So to give a quick background, biodiesel is a renewable fuel source comprised of a mix of renewable fuel, biofuel and conventional diesel. It's typically made, biofuel is typically made from, say, animal fats, cooking oils, and certain vegetables. So it's all reused materials typically, and it's classified by the percentage of biofuel that's mixed in. So B5 is going to be 5% biofuel and 95% conventional diesel. B20 is going to be 20% biofuel and 80% conventional diesel. B99 is going to be 99% biofuel. B5 and B20 are actually generally cheaper than conventional diesel and have been over the last few years. And B99 is roughly 25% more expensive than diesel. One thing to note, however, is that B99's price is a lot more stable, so if we continue to see a ton of energy volatility and we see a substantial rise in diesel prices from their already elevated levels, it might make sense to reevaluate the use of B99 in vehicles. It's not incredibly difficult, or it shouldn't be incredibly difficult to source biodiesel. Bourne's Energy, a local provider, already is giving some biodiesel to the Department of Public Works, and it provides bioheating oil to certain commercial facilities around Vermont. And the benefits of biodiesel are mainly it emits on its own 15% less CO2 than conventional diesel, and B99, if it should be used, would emit 75% less CO2. We could go down a slide. The main block to using biodiesel is concerns around its gelling point. So essentially, in the winter months, biodiesel has a higher gelling point. That slide says lower, apologies about that, which leads it to sometimes damage engines, and it can generally be a concern. However, we found through research with looking at the Department of Energy and some local providers that the use of B20 biodiesel, when combined with a fuel additive, can be used year-round with no ill effects on engines. And should we decide to use biodiesel year-round with a fuel additive, that would reduce our emissions by roughly 20% overall from diesel fuel, and it would also actually increase fuel's efficiency by 7 to 10% from normal B20 levels. And if this change was to be implemented town-wide, you would see a reduction of roughly 80,000 pounds of CO2, 21% reduction from current levels of around 400,000. This would also be a cost-effective measure. We estimated that it would reduce the cost of diesel from around $80,000 to around $72,000.
Nice.
All right, and then
terms of looking at other fuel system alternatives to implement in the town, we've looked at the comparative CO2 emissions of natural gas and propane per MMBTU unit of energy. And in fact, natural gas emits approximately 6.7% less per MMBTU than propane, and also costs roughly $23 less per MMBTU of energy. Natural gas also has other advantages. It's more price stable generally than propane due to commercial regulations at the state of Vermont. General historical trends where natural gas is lower price than propane, as well as the renewable manufacturing potential of RNG, renewable natural gas. Converting the fire department and the recreation center to natural gas will require approximately 8,500 CCF of natural gas annually at a cost of about $13,000 per year, which will run us a 50% reduction in operational costs. Furthermore, Vermont Gas Systems estimates about a $1,000 per building conversion infrastructure cost if we were to convert from propane to natural gas for each of these currently propane-using buildings. Next slide, please. As it stands now, at the wastewater treatment plant here in Middlebury, there's currently an $18,000 fuel expenditure every year. And using fuel oil, we're emitting approximately 130,000 pounds of CO2 every year. However, transitioning to natural gas could allow us to reduce our operating costs by 44 to 50%, depending on the number of meters, as well as incur a lot of benefits in terms of CO2 reductions due to its around 20% CO2 reductions, regardless of how many meters we're using at the wastewater treatment facility. To convert from fuel oil to natural gas, there are some capital costs to be expected. However, Plus Mechanical, which is currently working on that with Bob Wells, is stating that they are expected to be relatively minor when compared to recurrent annual savings by using natural gas instead of fuel oil. Next slide, please. Then last but not least, fuel system alternatives. Biodiesel is a great way of meeting our heating energy needs in the town of Middlebury. For example, Vermont Compost, which is located in Montpelier, Vermont, they already use B99 biodiesel year-round with little to no issues simply by using fuel tank heaters, allowing them to keep operating between the months of October and April, avoiding any gelling issues. Furthermore, while B99 can cost more than traditional diesel, this cost can be offset by the natural gas conversion savings, as well as the B99's 75% reduction in CO2 emissions per gallon burned, leading B99 to be roughly a 3-to-1 ratio of benefit to cost. Next slide, please.
And actually the one after that would be great. So looking at increasing the energy efficiency of our pre-existing heating systems, our first recommendation is the implementation of smart thermostats into municipal buildings. A smart thermostat can lower energy needs and heating bills by 10 to 12% annually. And the average smart thermostat right now goes from $150 to $250 to spend, but depending on the specific model and features, which I'll talk about in the next slide. And the average installation cost is about $100 to $200. However, Efficiency Vermont offers up to $100 in rebates for its purchase and installation. So we looked into the features that would be most effective for smart thermostats to have if we implemented them in municipal buildings. For reducing CO2 through heating, and that is occupancy sensors. Those detect when rooms are unoccupied and can adjust the temperature accordingly without someone being present to do that. Additionally, learning capabilities. This makes the smart thermostats capable to learn from the typical behavior of users and actually adjust the temperature before we actually see those trends happen. So the temperature of the building can be prepared for that and not be wasting energy. And lastly, temperature zoning. That allows managers to establish temperature zones within a building. So you're not just adjusting the temperature of the whole building or specific rooms. You can have specific areas where people generally congregate. Next slide, please. And another feature of increasing energy efficiency of heating systems is enveloping and envelope retrofits in buildings. So energy audits can provide us insight into which buildings are experiencing the greatest heat loss and air leaks. And we're going to talk about envelope, actually how to get these energy audits later. Additionally, we've learned that buildings with attics, basements, or significant crawl spaces should be addressed first for enveloping. And retrofitting a building's envelope contributes to the reduction of energy consumption by improving the insulation, the sealing of walls, floors, doors, windows, and anywhere that air can really come in. And by making commercial buildings more airtight, especially in cold climates like Vermont, energy cost savings of up to 36% can be achieved. Slide, please. And we've also looked at the specific envelope retrofits that we think would be best suited for a town like Middlebury, Vermont. And first, that is air sealing. The consequences of deficient air tightness are not just increased energy use, but also moisture damages, decreased thermal comfort, and reduced air quality within the buildings. And also there's a great effect of Middlebury's low winter temperatures. The harsh wind, the harsh snow, that can lead to an influx in cold air coming into the buildings, which requires increased energy use to combat that and to really maintain a steady temperature. Additionally, we should focus on better insulation in the buildings, and this process should follow air sealing, because without a proper barrier to stop it, most insulating materials that we would use in somewhere like Vermont, like fiberglass, allow air to flow through them, so insulation should come after air sealing.
Next slide, please. So should the town of Middlebury be successful in the implementation of smart thermostats and enveloping, and then see an increase of energy efficiency of 25%, the IRA offers tax reductions of 50% per square feet at a baseline, with an additional 2 cents per square feet per percent above that 25. And this applies to both new construction and retrofits to current buildings. Next slide, please. And then going back to the energy resilient assessments, Vermont Municipal Energy Resilience, they offer free energy audits, but communication with them has been a bit iffy. Should you not be able to get energy audits from them, the Neighborhood Works of Western Vermont Heat Squad offers comprehensive energy audits for a baseline of $150 with an additional fees for per 2,500 square foot over. Next slide.
All right. So before we go into some heavy capital expenditures, we want to know where's the money at. And so we've come up with a kind of short list of potential funding sources. It's not completely exhaustive, but instead just kind of a quick starting point. Some of these may be on your radar, and if they're not, well, they're right here. But the first one is Vermont Diesel. That kind of kicks off that first step to going toward biodiesel. It can fund a lot of things to help going toward basically anything to decarbonize and kind of lessen the reliance on diesel. But secondly, I also wanted to bring attention to the Department of Housing and Community Development. The state legislator last year in 2022 just kind of allocated $10 million toward this department, and 7 million of those will be opening up pretty soon. Applications are coming up soon, hopefully. They do say mid-2023. So they'll be opening up soon expectedly. However, what they did release is an interest survey. So definitely, I think, get local businesses involved with that, because a lot of this will have to do with developing kind of those robust electrification plans that do involve a lot of money. But the state of Vermont is saying, hey, we want to start this, we want to jumpstart it. And so they actually did a big push for this. And they're currently still doing a big push for this. So highly recommend going after that as well. But if we may go to the next slide. The main one that I'd like to talk about is the Volkswagen Diesel Settlement Funds. That's kind of the big one that basically through research, but also talking through various sources, including Sam Buckley at the Vermont Economic Development Authority, mentioned the Volkswagen Diesel Settlement Funds as kind of that first base to kind of go toward. But kind of what I found is that 2.8 million of that will go toward public EV charging. And so that's going to be a huge point, especially going into electrification. The Biden administration has put a huge push toward that. And so 2.8 million the state of Vermont has allocated for that. So the ability to be able to tap into that would be fantastic. But also a lot of different programs have established from this fund. And so definitely keeping an eye out for funds that are related to that as well. Also wanted to kind of go on the national scope as well. As I mentioned, the Biden administration has a lot of initiative as well. If we may go to the next slide, please. Awesome, thank you. And then the big one is the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Fund. That one, the state of Vermont is allocated at $21.2 million. So that is for the fiscal years 2022 to 2026. And so this is going to be largely helpful when it comes to alternative fuel corridors. There's a map on the next slide that will kind of highlight these key figures. And if we look toward the state of Vermont, it might be a bit difficult, but basically the highways and freeways of the state of Vermont are highlighted all green, as in the federal government already kind of looks at it as like, yes, we want to invest here, we want to go here, we want to start developing a network here. Some of them, kind of the ones in yellow, are the ones that they're still tentatively planning or still working on, but green is active. That means they're looking to invest, and so the amount of money on the federal government level is already invested. The state of Vermont got the national ones, but a second one, it just implemented, if we may go up one slide, thank you. The CFI, that one actually you don't have to ask the state for, you can apply to directly. But that one's meant to a little bit, yes, support the corridors, but if there's any areas that you want to include that are not part of the corridors, that will be able to be funded through that as well. The deadline is on May 30th. However, this is only the first round of funding. This is only the first round of funding. There's other rounds coming that will be able to fund this as well. I've included other resources on another slide as well, but that's in case you want to talk more about funding solutions. These are areas I found as a great resource to talk to. But with that, we'll go into the large capital projects.
All right. So in terms of looking at capital investments to make in the town of Middlebury, one we see with great potential is implementing an anaerobic digester at the wastewater treatment facility. And essentially, implementing this will allow the town to not have the traditional system of water treatment in which a lot of liming processes are done, which is a major emitter of CO2. And also with the anaerobic digester, you can produce biogas, which can allow us to not have to use fuel oil, saving us money every single year. And this sort of project will be of moderate cost at $1.7 million. However, the payback period is very short at 5 years. Alternatively, we could use the same sort of process of implementing an anaerobic digester and sell excess biogas as renewable natural gas to Vermont gas systems, which will both increase revenue and also increase infrastructure costs. However, due to the, next slide please. However, being able to have this excess natural gas be refined and sold as renewable natural gas to VGS will allow us to actually produce 140,000 CCF of natural gas every year in a sustainable manner, allowing Middlebury to indirectly reduce their emissions as well, assisting other communities take on renewable natural gas. And a little bit of context about anaerobic digesters in the state of Vermont. Essex Junction, Vermont already uses anaerobic digesters and has used one for over 20 years and has been very efficient with that and currently meeting 100% of its energy requirements. And using approximately 8,000 CCF of natural gas or some sort of biogas every year, the wastewater treatment plant will emit 108,000 pounds of CO2 every year, which is far less than the current amount for the fuel oil being used every single year.
So the next section is electric vehicles and charging stations. Although I love to see the town select board driving Teslas everywhere and also the whole public works with Rivian trucks, we recognize it may not be economically feasible right now due to the technology and just the price point. However, in the report, we list some possible options that you guys can look at from different tiers as just your basic like day-to-day cars, heavy-duty vehicles, and then something like a truck. So 3 different tiers. But the biggest emphasis that we really want to take here is that there is going to be a point where electric vehicles will become cost efficient. And when that moment comes, we want the town to like jump on this opportunity. As Brian said, there's a lot of money right now that we can chase after to build the necessary infrastructure, have these charging stations, and maybe even possibly electrifying certain fleets. Because at the end of the day, gasoline and diesel still make up 50% of our town's total emissions. So this is something that we really have to look forward and be very cognizant of. in the end, I want to say we're incredibly proud of the work that we did. I'm proud of the consultants. They've been fantastic. And I feel like we presented a comprehensive and robust report. Our numbers and our information is not coming out of nowhere. Caroline's talked to leading heat pump experts. Sam and Patrick went to the wastewater treatment plant and toured it and talked to Bob Wells directly. We talked to people who have worked on energy projects in the Northeast, like in Boston and also in residing towns. And I think what we realize is this is a tough goal to hit. 80%, 1 million pounds of CO2 to be reduced. It seems incredibly daunting, almost impossible. But we hope that with our plans, we can serve as a spark for what the town can do and actions it can take for the foreseeable future. And thank you again for providing this opportunity to present to you guys.
This was fantastic, especially given that you're dealing with all of the demands of your very difficult classes at the same time. This is a substantial and well put together piece of work. Thanks very much.
You all did a great job. I would hire every one of you. I don't care what my business is, but you're very impressive, and this is really outstanding work. And one of the most difficult for us as a town to meet this is having the money to meet it. And you provided alternatives and some things that we knew about, some things we don't know about. But again, it all comes down to how much money we have to spend to be able to achieve these.
Something that we didn't include in the presentation but is in the final deliverable is that we are currently in conversation with the environmental policy director at Middlebury to maybe set up a student grant author class where students would get class credit and experience to write grants for you guys.
There you go, Kathleen. That's what you want.
Yeah, okay.
So you'll have 20 college students writing your grants.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
We love that.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Let me just say thank you for all that work, and apologize to Ella for not including you as one of the, along with Derek, for one of the team leads. Just one point is that we're taking it a step further and not looking at natural gas, but we're looking at electricity and heat pumps, which will get us a lot greater return in terms of carbon reduction. But you have a lot of good points in there that we're going to bring into our meetings. We have a meeting next week, and we're talking about some of these things. So the information you have will be very helpful for the work we're doing. So much appreciated.
I think every single one of you have done an amazing job. Everybody behind you, you did a great job. Really appreciate you coming on here. I just had a question. Have any of you have been to the digester in Salisbury? Anaerobic digester we have? And did you go there, or?
We did.
I did?
We did not.
Okay. So I think you should visit that site also and have some feedback from them, because you mentioned Essex, but we have our own here, right around outside Middlebury.
Yeah. I think the reason why we contacted Essex is, I think Sam can elaborate on this.
Yeah, I think just recurrent use, 20 years of use documented
Yes,
carbon
that's
reduction
true.
that's
Yeah.
really why we went for that. And also, access, they were just the first to respond, and we were
Right.
able to get a comprehensive meeting with them. So if we were able to get a meeting with Salisbury, I think that'd be a great way.
I think it's it will be very beneficial for you to see, and it's local right here.
Yeah.
That's about 6 weeks of work.
Roughly.
Well done.
I'd like to address the select board just for a second. This is great stuff, and there are a number of places where the students have had insights that we perhaps missed, and so that's valuable to have. One thing I want to say to you all is that we, the Energy Committee, are taking the first opportunity we will have to meet with the Infrastructure Committee I think at their June meeting, to go over our analysis of various alternative designs for the future of the wastewater treatment plant. And there's a spoiler alert here. Our analysis suggests that none of the four treatment plant design options that the engineer assessed that use an anaerobic digester, none of those four are an improvement over the current situation with respect to greenhouse gas emissions, and some of them may be much worse. So you're looking surprised, and that's, and we were too.
I'm just wondering what scope you're looking at to arrive at that. I would think that scope 1, that totally makes sense, but I wonder about looking at scope 2 or 3.
Pending the results of our meeting with the infrastructure committee, you'll hear from us a pretty detailed account of how we did this analysis.
Okay.
I want to point out that although the Goodrich Farm in Salisbury has an anaerobic digester, and our future wastewater treatment plant might have an anaerobic digester, they're not the same in terms of greenhouse gas implications. If you take a huge amount of manure generated on a dairy farm and store it in a closed place, which is what they do, it releases methane. So what the Goodrich plant does is collect methane that would otherwise go to the atmosphere and uses it for something productive. And that's good. That's a pretty good design. With the anaerobic digester, the sewage left to its own devices will emit carbon dioxide. Some carbon dioxide comes off of the current treatment plant. The current treatment plant makes virtually no methane. So if we install an anaerobic digester as part of the process, then we're making new methane. It's not taking existing methane and purposing it. It's actually generating new methane. And that's why the result is the way it is. This isn't the place for a detailed description, but maybe that gives you some idea of where our thinking is of it. And I sent you all our most recent analysis, but much too late for you to really use it in your work.
Yes, so basically our thinking and our work with VGS as well as Forcier Consulting Engineers was that we found that 99.8% of the methane that is produced will be burned off. And also part of that goal with having the excess biogas being further refined into RNG was to actually reduce the amount of methane going into the atmosphere, instead repurposing it for fuel, which would otherwise be obtained through fracking or other more carbon-intensive processes.
If you haven't had a chance yet, I really would encourage you to read the analysis we did. Okay.
But we could have those same discussions.
We had these same conversations, but I just want to alert you all that this is not as straightforward as you might think it would be, and that we're going to be coming back to you all with further analysis. And I'll take a look at what y'all did too, just to make sure that I didn't miss something.
It is beneficial overall.
Is there any other questions that we can help address?
I had one. Did you talk to the Public Works guys about their engines and biofuels?
So, we wanted to limit our contact with the town because we know that you're busy people and there's proper channels to, get information through.
Sure.
And then we also had a tight timeline for this.
Yeah.
So we weren't able to reach out to Public Works.
However, through talking with Bob Wells at the wastewater treatment plant, we were able to find that B20 biodiesel is actually used year-round in some of the loaders and trucks at those facilities. So there is some tested use of biodiesel already in the town of Middlebury.
Yeah, that's great to know. It's just those vehicles are crazy expensive, and I'd hate to do anything that we'd have to think more if we were voiding warranties or otherwise possibly reducing the lifespan of those expensive engines.
Just a sign that Ross has been working with Public Works on the biodiesel.
Right.
Yeah, that's been going on for.
In response to the warranties, I believe B20 falls within the allowed range, and also I think for some of the vehicles the warranties have expired already. And what we're offering is the fuel additives can serve as an extra layer of protection for these vehicles to run smoothly.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd be using B99 year-round, but until we know that B99 can be used with or without an additive in the winter months, we want to first kind of means test it and use B20 and fuel additive just to ensure that we have maximum safety to the engines as well as minimize cost.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Information you acquired.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, thank you.
Thank you so much
Thanks.
for coming.
Thanks a lot.
This has
All
been
right.
amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tight schedule.
A treat. Much appreciated.
You're making us look like bad dressers.
So,
I'm a junior.
I'm a sophomore.
I'm a sophomore as well.
I'm a freshman.
Ooh.
I'm freshman.
And I'm a junior.
Wow.
Just to let you know, there's room on the Energy Committee for anybody. We have had students as a member in the past.
Oh, yeah. That'd be fabulous to do it.
Because they stay a long time.
That's true.
I've often said it would be great if we had
Would someone take a
student
photo of us?
committees.
Oh, yes.
It's just a student.
Yeah.
That's the energy they bring.
Yeah.
They know,
Where do you want to be?
they know our town a lot of areas than I do.
Yeah.
But they get a grade for it, too.
Yeah.